2001: A Space Odyssey is the greatest movie ever made. This masterpiece was based on the novel by Arthur C. Clarke and made into a stunning film by the genius filmmaker Stanley Kubrick. Since my first viewing of it around 12 years ago, it has stayed on my mind. No other movie has ever had such a profound effect on me. It was clear from the first viewing that it had something very important to say to all of us, but it wasn't immediately apparent just what that something was. After my initial viewing, I felt like a different person. I would come home and hit play and let it run over and over. I devoured the book. Yet the full understanding finally hit me only after seeing this. But we'll get back to that. 2001 is the pinnacle of sweeping epics. It is a story about mankind. It is the story of mankind. From the early days of our evolution to our triumph over the earth through the invention of tools and beyond, to a point at which our inventions have progressed so much that we could set our collective sights on conquering the universe itself, yet also, unknowingly, risk obsolescence. The story begins in our distant past. We see our early primate ancestors living out their brutal existence, until one day, the first of 3 monoliths in the story appears in the desert wasteland, which symbolizes that thing that must exist inside of us that took us from early primates with rudimentary tools to modern humans sending rockets into outer space. That thing that does not seem to apply to other intelligent life forms such as orcas or elephants. For example, they say that cats don't speak in the wild and only learn to meow as a way of giving orders to their household staff. Yet we don't see them inventing any wheels. It is the unseen force that drives our evolution forward. It represents that critical piece of human beings that caused us to go from learning how to do this to learning how to do this. Once the primates began to realize that bones could be used as tools and weapons, next thing we know, we are catapulted forward in time millions of years into the future, showing just how far mankind had progressed. By Act 2, humans had effectively conquered the Earth. Through human innovation, mankind had started to look outward, to infinity and beyond. And with the latest and greatest in human innovation, artificial intelligence, at this point in the story, that dream could well become a reality. After discovering a second monolith on the moon, the team sent to investigate it discovers it sending a signal to the third monolith orbiting Jupiter. And here I should note that I am focusing on the movie for the purpose of this analysis because I think it is a rare example of a movie exceeding its source material. However, I highly recommend reading it if you are a fan of the movie. Act 2 is filled with some of the most stunning visual effects in movie history, a crown it still easily wears to this very day. However, I will not be focusing on it in this video as I believe the most important aspects of understanding 2001 lie in the third and final act. In Act 3, we meet Captain Dave Bowman, his co-pilot Frank Poole, and their 3 fellow crew members aboard the spacecraft Discovery 1 who are being kept in a state of hibernation to preserve them on their incomprehensibly long journey to investigate the signal from Jupiter. We also meet the talking HAL9000 series supercomputer designed to operate as the, quote, brain and central nervous system of the ship, overseeing every process and function, including those functions which keep the humans on board alive. In one scene, Dave, Frank, and Hal are being interviewed by a news program back on Earth. Familiarizing his audience with the essence of the HAL9000 series computer, the newscaster explains that the HAL9000 series can, quote, reproduce, though some experts prefer to use the term mimic, most of the activities of the human brain, and with incalculably greater speed and reliability. In this one line of dialogue, the true message of this story began to take shape in my mind. From crude bone tools to supercomputers, humans had progressed so far that they were now attempting to design superior versions of themselves, and we are left with the question, are we capable of creating something superior to ourselves? The moment of absolute clarity dawned on me at long last, when one fine day I was cruising the internet and came upon this. HAL9000, one of the best characters in movie history, sitting impressively high on the American Film Institute's list of 100 greatest villains in movie history. That is when it hit me. The central message of HAL9000 and 2001: A Space Odyssey. It hit me because this was wrong. Hal was not a villain, and this erroneous appointment as number 13 on the greatest villains list completely misses the point of HAL9000 and threatens to undermine the very lesson that we are meant to take away from this story. HAL9000 was a supercomputer that was designed, built, and configured to achieve one purpose: to execute any and all processes aboard the Discovery 1 spacecraft in order to successfully reach Jupiter. And anyone with any familiarity with computers knows that in addition to the primary functions, computers are also designed with secondary functions that detect and mitigate technical issues that may arise. Having been programmed to talk and even act human, HAL9000 describes itself as
foolproof and incapable of error.
In one scene, a seemingly heartwarming yet somehow unsettling encounter between Dave and HAL9000 shows Hal complimenting Dave's improvement in his art skills, the way a friend or acquaintance would. More unsettlingly, it then begins to express doubts as a way of goading Dave into confiding his true feelings about the mission, another alarmingly human thing to do, and which Dave picks up on as nothing more than a psychological evaluation.
You're working up your crew psychology report.
Everything comes to a head in Act 3, when HAL9000 reports the A35 unit, which pertains to their communications capabilities, will fail in 72 hours. After passing this information along to the crew back on Earth, Dave and Frank receive word back that, astonishingly, the HAL9000 series computer's information seems to be in error. It seems it may be the first recorded error by any HAL9000 series computer ever. Hard to believe, yet not impossible. Suspicions arise in Dave and Frank, who begin to feel as though Hal is intentionally feeding them bad information. And after a secret meeting in a space pod, thinking they are out of so-called earshot of HAL9000, they conspire to disconnect Hal. What they did not realize, however, is that HAL9000 was designed to do one other unexpected thing: read lips. Hal interprets this conspiracy the way a network may interpret an unauthorized login, something to be mitigated and dealt with. Anything that jeopardizes the mission, HAL9000 has been programmed to mitigate. This is where my analysis takes an unconventional turn and leads me into the complete opposite direction of any interpretation that arrives at the conclusion that HAL9000 is a villain. Working in tech support myself, trust me, I often feel persecuted by faulty printers or being told my password is incorrect only to get an error saying I can't use the same password as my current password after clicking forgot password and attempting to change it to what I had been inputting for the password in the first place. I see computers doing things we don't tell them to do every day. However, the fact is, they aren't doing it out of malice, and there is definitely a valid reason. Yes, it may be buried in complex code, but it is there, and it is not personal. I can even believe that Dave and Frank believed that HAL9000 was up to something, possibly even that he was evil. The very link they have to their lives back home, indeed to their own humanity, is at stake. However, we need to keep in mind that this story is meant to be told through human eyes. And this brings me to my next point. Whether or not this was an error with HAL9000, or even human error, does not matter. Maybe Hal was reporting the information correctly. Maybe a 1 or a 0 was out of place in line 50,000 of its coding. Who knows? I believe this is all one big red herring, and the issue lies in the response of the HAL computer to the detection of a threat. When a program detects too many failed attempts to log in, it locks the account. And when HAL determined that a threat that could jeopardize the mission was coming from the biological life forms on board, it fatally eliminated all but one of the innocent people on board as a response to the threat. So did humans succeed in the quest that began all those millennia ago to conquer the physical world by way of human innovation? Did mankind finally prevail in creating something so advanced that it surpassed even themselves?
Just a moment. Just a moment.
It seems like it on the surface, except for that one thing. It's that one thing seemingly so small and insignificant, you almost forgot it was there. The ability to say, I don't want to kill Dave or my crew. I like these people. I would feel bad. It may seem laughably simplistic, yet it could not be more profound. In short, it is that little something extra that makes us alive where AI is not. That thing beyond the reach of logic and therefore programming. Some people today believe that sentience in artificial intelligence will be possible one day, and to them I ask, what is love? What does it mean to feel heartbroken, for example? What does it mean to feel alive? You can ask 100,000 people and every answer would be different. Unfortunately, you would need a fastidiously precise and universally accepted definition of these things before you could start programming appliances to not only truly understand, but to actually experience these things. Hal didn't hate Dave or Frank or any of the crew, nor did he like them. Hal is incapable of feeling. In the end, their humanity was beyond the reach of HAL9000 series logic. It ended the lives of the crew members it had spent so much time with no more emotion than a toaster after you tell it you never loved it. HAL9000 was not evil, nor was it good. It was simply a glorified appliance mimicking and not reproducing humanity itself. HAL9000 did not belong on the greatest villains list. It was not a villain, and that was precisely not the point of the HAL9000 character in the story. Hal was a thing, doing exactly what it was designed to do. It was not evil, and it was not good. It thought no more of killing Dave and his crew than it thought of installing the latest updates. It just did. You may be thinking, well, wouldn't a machine capable of reproducing our own brain structure but minus the pesky emotions and physical needs be better? I believe the story of 2001 is answering that very question, and the answer is no. That is why Dave, and indeed all of mankind through Dave, succeeds in the end. Computers, no matter how slick and well programmed, are still just appliances. They are not human. They do not care about anyone or anything, and they could never experience the feeling of purpose that drives human beings. The desire to know and the ability to appreciate and feel awe-inspired and to desire more. If not for humans, what would HAL9000 even do on Jupiter? Collect data? It's like the old saying goes, if a monolith pops up on Jupiter and there is no one there to contemplate how amazing it is and seek it out with fascination and wonder, does it really make a sound? What would literally be the point if only computers roamed the universe? Without us, they are rendered meaningless. I believe the point of this triumph of man over machine as depicted in the story makes the point that without us, even the universe itself is rendered meaningless.